Hello, ghosties. You're listening to Not My Ghost.
Not My Problem. I'm Kelly.
And I'm Jen.
Whether you're a skeptic, a true believer, or somewhere in between, join us for a journey into the unknown.
Because remember, when it comes to the paranormal, it may not be our problem.
But it's certainly someone's problem. So, Jen, finally, we are recording this episode.
Finally. Took a minute.
After I've rescheduled like 4 times on you.
Yeah, a little bit. Might have been about that.
Yeah. My daughter's boyfriend's family is visiting from Alaska, so we have been hanging out with them a lot. It's been fun to get to know them.
That's cool. That's a legit reason to reschedule.
Yeah, because they're from Alaska, so we won't get to see them often.
Right. And it's not like I have anything going on in my life right now, so I'm pretty flexible.
Flexibility is good, especially when your co-host needs to change things constantly on you.
It is. It is good. I like to be flexible and, well, I like to be somewhat flexible and have an open schedule, but maybe not quite this open.
This was an unusual week. So.
Yes, usually hasn't been this bad. Though the first episode, when we sat down and tried to get that all taken care of, I think we took a bit. It got rescheduled several times.
Yes.
But I think that was mostly because of your internet.
My internet legitimately sucks.
Yeah, it's not great.
And we are trying to get it fixed. We're trying to get it fixed, but we're not getting anywhere with the company. So
lame.
Yep. But I have a question for you today.
Before you say that question, I do just want to announce that we are in our scripted, unscripted banter section.
Oh, yes. We're really bad about announcing that. We eventually get it in.
Exactly. We just start talking and eventually we probably won't have to mention it because our listeners are just going to know. But with us still being new, I just like people to know that when you log in and listen to this podcast, you're going to get about 5 to 10 minutes of scripted, unscripted banter.
Right. And the only reason that the scripted part is in there is because I know what question I'm going to ask you.
Yes, because it's your episode.
The rest of it is all truly unscripted.
Truly unscripted.
Okay, so your question for this week is, what was the name of your favorite doll or stuffed animal when you were growing up?
George.
George?
Mm-hmm. I still have it. Did I tell you the story about the time I went with my family to see a psychic comedian?
Yes.
Okay, and they guessed?
They guessed George.
I'm very skeptical of psychics, especially ones that go out and do shows like this. And I'm sure that there's some parlor trick that I just can't figure out. But
well, my thing was you had to write it down.
Yeah.
You had to write it down and then they got it. And there's some way that they got it.
Some way.
I don't know how, but if you had to write it down and they didn't just pull that name out of thin air.
Yeah.
Then I think parlor trick.
But it is very fascinating in the moment, at least. It was fun. I recommend it. Even if you can debunk it later, going to those types of shows and getting to be a participant. On to George. So George is a Beanie Baby for all of those who are my age or above. I don't know if I guess they still sell them, but I don't think they're as big of a thing anymore. He is a Beanie Baby, and his Beanie Baby name is Bongo. He is the monkey, for anyone who knows. And I was like probably 6-ish, and we were in Ocean City, Maryland, which was our family vacation spot. And we went into Candy Kitchen, which is a famous chain down there that sells candy and all kinds of stuffed animals, and basically a child's dream when they walk in. And I was allowed to pick one toy. And I picked Bongo, the Beanie Baby, because my dad used to always read me Curious George. So when I saw the monkey, I picked the monkey. So I've had this monkey since I was about 6, and I still have him. And he has been everywhere. He has been sewn up several times. He has lost most of his beads. He has been burned on the side of his face. He's been through it.
Yeah.
But he still sits on my nightstand right there next to me.
Yeah. Probably always will.
Yes, he will.
When I was when I was really, really little, I had a baby doll. It had a string on it and you could pull it and it was like, I love you. But I used to carry it by the hair and I took it everywhere with me. And my parents took me to get portraits taken and they took the doll from me and I just started screaming. And my mom was like, you got to give her the doll back. So there are pictures of me holding the doll and the hair is just, because I held it by the hair, it's just like straight up mohawk. I didn't name that doll a name, but I called it my baby doll. But the funny thing about it is my parents always said, so we're in Maryland, so we're not a southern state at all. There's not really a southern accent here. But my parents always used to laugh that I had a southern Glen Burnie accent because I would call it my baby Dale. I got to get my baby Dale.
My baby Dale.
Other than that, I had a Cabbage Patch Kid named Emma Grace.
Yeah, we know about the Cabbage Patch Kid. You told us about it in the first episode.
Yeah, she was like my favorite, like when I got a little bit older and there was actually a name. And I didn't name her that, but it was the name of my favorite doll.
I do have a possibly paranormal story around George.
Ooh, I want to hear.
I was younger. I've had George for a few years at this point, but still younger because I was still living at my house, the row home that I lived at when I was a kid. So I moved out when I was 10. So I was less than 10. I had ripped George. I don't remember if this was the arm rip or the in between the legs rip, but he got ripped a couple times. And I had set him down for my dad to sew him for me. And I had set him on the dining room table. And my parents were downstairs watching TV, and I was in my brother's room playing some sort of video game at the time. And when I was done, I walked into my room, and George was sitting on my dresser. So, of course, I grab him, and I'm like, run downstairs. Oh, thank you, Mommy. Thank you, Daddy, for fixing him. And they both look at me like I am insane. And they were like, what are you talking about? No one touched him. And I was like, what? But he was upstairs on my dresser. And then I looked and he had not been fixed. He was not sewn. To this day, they both swear that they did not put that doll upstairs in my room.
Is it possible that your brother was messing with you and did it?
No, because again, at this point, he would have told me. And second, I was with him the entire time in his room playing video games.
Oh, yeah. Okay. You did say you were playing video games in his room. I just didn't know he was there with you.
Oh, yes. He was with me playing video games. He liked me occasionally when I was a kid.
Oh, occasionally.
Not all the time. We're better now. We're good now. But
yeah,
when I was a kid, he was not my biggest fan. I was born on his 3rd birthday. We have the same birthday 3 years apart.
Yeah.
I think he held a grudge for a little bit when we were children that I made his parents miss his 3rd birthday party.
Yeah, I can see that from a child's perspective.
Yeah.
It's like, who's this kid?
Right. Especially a 3-year-old.
Right.
Who doesn't really understand.
I don't have my special day. Now, every year on my birthday, people are going to tell the story of how Jen was born.
I also now have to share my birthday with this other thing that I didn't want in the first place.
Yeah, I can see it. Moving on from our scripted, unscripted banter, today we are going to be doing part 1 of our Haunted Doll series.
Ooh, spooky. That is a fascinating topic, Kelly, considering what happened shortly before we started this podcast with haunted dolls.
Yeah, you want to tell our listeners?
I was feeling spooky, and I think, honestly, I listened to an episode about haunted dolls on Two Girls, One Ghost podcast. Go check them out if you're not already. They're amazing. And I was like, I want one of those. So I went on eBay and I searched around and I bid on a couple and I ended up getting 2. And I got so excited when I did this and I Snapchatted my best friend, Kelly, and was like, hey, I just ordered these 2 haunted dolls and like, here's their story and I'm so excited. And I really hope that I can like catch something and document it and it's going to be awesome.
And that's when I sent a snap back to Jen that said, why in the world would you do something like that? You have no idea what you're inviting into your house.
Yeah.
I just don't think it's a great idea. It just seems a little crazy to me.
I was heartbroken because out of all of the people that I thought would be like so excited that I bought haunted dolls, it was Kelly. And then to get that response back from her, I was like, what? It was so sad.
Yeah. Sometimes things need to sink in a little bit for me.
Because then it was probably about 2 weeks later, I got a Snapchat from Kelly. No, it wasn't a Snapchat.
Was it 2 weeks? It was 2 hours.
Well, I think after you did what you did, but when you didn't tell me what you did until I think you posted the Instagram video and tagged me in it.
No, I did because I asked you where you got the doll from.
You did, but yes, you did. Okay, so you did Snapchat me back and say, where did you get the doll? And then I sent you the seller that I got the one from. And that was the end of the conversation. So I was like, oh, she's probably just looking and blah, blah, blah. So then it was probably about 2 weeks later because, shipping and all that. I get tagged in this Instagram reel. It's Kelly saying how her friend, Snapchatted her and told her about this haunted doll. And she told her how stupid it was. And she didn't know what she was inviting into the house and blah, 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 blah. And then the screen switches. And out of the top of the screen, an eBay box drops on her bed. And then she opens it and pulls out a haunted doll. Two. Yes, two.
One was a little stuffy and one was a doll.
Yes. And I think I did a reaction back to it where I was just mad at you because you shamed me in getting a haunted doll and then turned around and did it yourself.
Right. And then I went and ordered a couple more.
Yeah, she did. She got really into it.
Yeah. I love old dolls to begin with. My daughter Emily is like, why are you getting all this? She's like the me in the situation with you. She's like, what are you doing? You're going to get us killed. You're inviting these like haunted dolls into the house. And I'm like, Emily, nothing has happened and we've had them for months.
Right. I know that's what my other friend Kristen said when I told her about it is she was like, I don't know if I'm coming to stay with you anymore. She has. And I was like, literally nothing has happened since they've been here. So I think you're fine.
Right. But I do love my dolls. And you never know.
They could be dormant for a little bit.
Maybe they're just getting used to the house.
Yeah, exactly. Something could happen one day. It's also harder for me because I live in an apartment. Anytime I hear a weird noise, I'm just assuming it's apartment noise. So for all I know,
right,
it could be the doll making strange noises.
Yeah. I mean, I live in very old military housing. The walls are thin and I have a lot of people in this tiny house. Really just don't know. Whenever I hear anything, I don't think paranormal. I think, oh, Emily's cooking in the kitchen or Katie's in her room doing something.
Right.
So it's not like it's a small, quiet place. We can hear our neighbors all the time. When they go up and down the stairs, it's insane.
You heard my upstairs neighbors when you were here.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. That one night, I was like, did somebody die? I heard like running back and forth and back and forth.
That happened to me.
Loud crash.
That happened last night. I didn't get the loud crash, but it literally sounded like they were running back and forth in their apartment.
Yeah.
And it was like 9:30, so not like crazy late, but still, like I'm just sitting in my living room trying to enjoy TV, and all I hear is up around the house. Like I don't understand.
When I heard that loud crash, I thought somebody was going to fall through the ceiling of your apartment. It was that loud.
Yeah.
I was like, what in the hell is going on? Maybe, Jen, maybe your dolls are haunting your upstairs neighbors.
Maybe. I think they might have haunted my downstairs neighbor because he switched apartments.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. And I'm only assuming because he thought I was too loud because he'd said something to me before at an event at the apartment that he can hear everything and I need to be mindful. And I'm like, you live in a fucking apartment, dude. Like,
yeah, seriously.
Do you want to come up and sit in my house for a minute and just listen to what I have to deal with? The upstairs neighbors vacuumed yesterday. And whenever anyone vacuums, it literally, because we have hard floors, it sounds awful. And I get you have to vacuum, you have to clean. But they vacuumed at 10 o'clock 2 nights ago. And I was like, what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah.
But they're on the 4th floor. They don't understand what the vacuum sounds like.
How loud it is.
For me, when I have to vacuum, I'm like, I'm doing it in the middle of the day, hoping that nobody's home and that I'm not disturbing anyone.
Right. Yeah. That's crazy. Since we are doing haunted dolls, I have some random fun and scary facts about dolls.
Love it. Can't wait to hear it.
The oldest known dolls date back to ancient civilizations, such as the Egyptian, Greek, and Roman cultures. Dolls made of wood, clay, and ivory have been discovered in tombs and ruins, indicating their long-standing role in human history. In many cultures, dolls are more than just toys. They can serve as religious icons, symbols of fertility, or even talisman for protection. For example, Japanese kokeshi dolls are handcrafted from wood and believed to bring good luck. In recent years, there have been a push for greater diversity and representation in the doll industry. Companies like Mattel have introduced dolls with a variety of skin tones, body types, disability, and career aspirations, promoting inclusivity and positive self-image for all children, which I think is fantastic.
Barbie for president.
It's a great idea.
It is, right? They have a Barbie president. It was in the Barbie movie.
I don't get to the movies often. So some scary facts. Dolls often fall into the uncanny valley, where they appear almost human, but not quite, which can trigger feelings of discomfort and eeriness. Their lifelike appearance, combined with their motionless state, can be unsettling to many people.
Yes, it can.
In certain cultures, dolls are used in rituals and ceremonies that invoke dark magic or curses. Voodoo dolls, for example, are often depicted as tools for casting spells or inflicting harm on others. Paranormal investigators sometimes use dolls to attract or communicate with spirits. The dolls are believed to act as vessels for spirits, and investigators claim to have recorded eerie phenomena boop, boo, doo, 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 and voices around them. I've seen some paranormal investigations where they use the dolls.
Yeah, I just watched the Project Fear, the Sally House last night.
Isn't that crazy?
It is. Oh, insane. They had a whole room with dolls for Sally. Super scary.
Yeah. But today we are going to be talking about a specific doll.
Ooh, which one?
Robert.
Oh, no.
Robert the doll.
Not Robert.
Have you ever seen Robert?
I've seen pictures.
You've never been down there?
No. Where is he located again?
Key West.
No, I've never been that far.
Yeah, I think it would be kind of cool to go, but also kind of terrifying after doing this research.
Yeah, we'll decide if we want to make that a road trip next time you come visit after you tell me all the research you've done.
Right. Robert is considered one of the most haunted dolls in the world. Robert has been tormenting people for over a century. His current home is the Fort East Martello Museum in Key West, Florida, where he continues to give visitors the creeps. Robert is believed to be possessed by an evil spirit, making him a must-see for any paranormal enthusiast. A must-see, Jen. We have to go. He's a must-see.
He is a must-see, but I want to hear what he does to people who see him.
So we're going to go to the beginning, because that's the best place to start.
That's usually a good starting point.
Robert's eerie tale begins in 1905 at Robert Eugene Otto's 5th birthday party. Young Robert, or Gene as he would later be known, received this doll as a present from his family.
I'd change my name too.
Well, wait till you find out why. Gene was immediately entranced by the doll. It was a fascination that grew quickly into an obsession. Like it was just Robert the doll after that.
Creepy.
Yeah. One day, Gene told his mother that he was no longer Robert, that the doll was now Robert. When his mother commented on him naming the doll after himself, Gene responded, "No, it's not the same name. It was a gift. I gave him my name, and I will go by Gene now." He even dressed Robert in his own clothes.
How big is this doll? I mean, I know I've seen pictures, but it's been a while.
It's larger than most dolls, and we get into why it's a larger one in a little bit later. Okay. But it was probably the size of about a 4-year-old, because there's a picture of Robert that you'll see in the Instagram posts that we put up. And he's wearing a little sailor suit. And that sailor suit is the same sailor suit that Robert is in now.
Okay.
Folklorists and legends warn that giving an effigy your name, your clothes, and your very identity is risky, as it can lead to possession.
That seems like that checks out.
Now, I have to say, as far as him saying his name is Gene now and the doll's name is Robert, if one of my kids did this, I wouldn't really have thought much of it, because kids do go through phases of wanting to be called different names. For instance, my daughter Katie insisted on being called Oh Mighty Warrior for about 3 months. And then later she changed it to Ninja Katie.
How old was she at this point? Like 2 weeks ago. No.
Probably 3,
Okay.
3 or 4.
Okay.
But Gene's obsession with Robert was different, as he lost interest in all of his other toys and focused only on Robert. That's when strange happenings started to happen around the house. Gene's parents began to hear different voices coming from his bedroom. Whenever they checked, they found him alone with Robert. Gene insisted that he was talking to Robert the whole time. Broken items were found around the house, and every time Gene would say that Robert did it. And it wasn't Gene or his sister. Gene had a sister that wasn't doing this as well. Gene's mother was sure that he was lying, but of course the behavior continued because it wasn't Gene, it was the doll. So the mother took that as his defiant behavior was continuing. But the mother also felt very nervous around Robert. There was something about Robert that was just very eerie to her. She grew increasingly nervous around Robert and eventually took Robert away and locked him in a closet.
Yeah, I would probably have just gotten rid of him personally, but I guess a closet could do it.
I think I would have gotten rid of him too. But what happened next was truly chilling, as one of the Otto family's servants heard voices coming from the closet. As he investigated, he saw the closet door was open, and when he turned his head, he saw Robert the doll walking around the corner of the stairs by himself.
Walking?
Walking. Just the doll was walking by itself.
That gives me Chucky vibes, and
yeah,
always terrified of Chucky.
Historians believe that they have placed together how Robert came to be. He was made in Germany by the Steiff Company, the same company that invented the teddy bear in 1902. They began producing dolls like Robert in 1904, and Robert's size was particularly rare, making him a unique and eerie presence in the Otto home. Also, the doll was originally created after the image of an actual human.
Ugh.
So Robert's size, he was used as a display piece in the storefront of a department store to advertise for the same doll, but they were all smaller.
Oh.
So he was just like a blown up version of the smaller dolls. They had a couple sizes, but Robert was the biggest one that they had.
So how'd they get like the display version?
It is believed that Gene's parents were visiting family in Germany and somehow picked this up as a gift.
Okay.
Because they thought it was unique and, being so large, they thought, well, this would be cool. And also I'd like to note, in today's culture, boys receiving dolls, a lot of people get really weirdly upset about that.
Maybe that stemmed from this boy receiving Robert the doll.
From everything I could see, it was common for boys to play with dolls back then.
No, it was. I've heard that too.
Most of the time when kids were playing, they were outside playing. And that was one of the reasons why his parents were kind of nervous, because he stopped going outside to play with everybody. He was just staying in the house with Robert. Gene was inseparable from Robert during his childhood, but as he grew up, he eventually packed Robert away in a trunk and stored him in the attic of his parents' home. At some point, he got this doll back because I guess it kept walking out of the closet.
Yeah. Sorry. The second, who was the one who saw the doll walking the first time?
It was a servant, and this was back in the time where people did not treat their servants, which is, a nice way to say slave.
Right. Okay. So the parents probably didn't believe them, because I'm like, if I was the mom and I saw this doll walking, that would be my cue to be like, nope, the fuck out of here. I'm going to burn you. And I don't even know. No, nope.
Well, officially slavery in the country ended in like 1865. But in the early 1900s, even now people treat African Americans like they are somehow still, like they're less than other people. Back in the early 1900s, when they had servants in their home, they still weren't treated like an equal human being. Not even necessarily like a human, an employee. They were still definitely looked down on.
Yeah, even today, no matter the color of your skin, I think servants and maids and housekeepers and all of that are still looked down upon.
Yeah, it's like they're somehow less because they're cleaning your house. Well, guess what? you're not cleaning your house because that person, that human, did a valuable service to you.
The one time in my life that I could afford cleaners to come in once a month, I was above and beyond nice to them because I'm like, you're doing the thing that I really, really don't want to do. So I appreciate you.
Right. It even goes to servers. Like, people don't want to tip well. And they're like, well, it's not my job to pay the employees, but it is the social contract that when you go out to eat, you tip, and you tip well.
In a perfect world, restaurants would pay their employees like they do in other countries, and we wouldn't be expected to tip. But that's not how it is.
Correct.
So when you go out to enjoy dinner somewhere, you know that you need to tip and tip well because these people are busting their ass. I've never been a server, but I have worked in retail, so I know what it is to deal with the general public. And I'm not directing this to any of our ghosties that are listening because I know every single one of you are perfect and amazing and nice to service workers.
Yes.
But sometimes people are assholes.
Yes. I have worked in retail. I have been a server. And sometimes people would like leave a piece of paper on the table that said, here's your tip. Always carry an umbrella when it's raining. And meanwhile, I'm at the time a single mom trying to put food on the table for my kids.
Just don't leave anything at that point. If you're going to do that, like that's just like taking the knife and just twisting it.
Right. And I was a really good server. There were times when other servers weren't able to handle all of the tables that they had. And I would go over and like refill their drinks for them. Or I've had tables in somebody else's section come up after their meal and hand me a tip and say I did more than their server did.
Yeah.
So it's not like I was a bad server and that's why they weren't leaving a good tip.
And I can vouch for the fact that Kelly is an amazing tipper, like amazing.
Yeah. I've been there. I know what it's like to try to pay your bills on that. Jean went on to study architecture and later moved to Paris to pursue art, which is, oh my gosh, what a dream.
Yeah.
It was in Paris when he met Anne Parker, a brilliant pianist. And the two got married on May 3rd, 1930, and set off on their life together, eventually moving to New York. The Great Depression hit hard by the 1940s. Anne's career had taken off, while Jean's had kind of faltered at this point during the Depression.
Go Anne.
Yeah. She was playing, I think they said the Rainbow Room, which was like a really big, like every artist wanted to play in the Rainbow Room.
Nice.
So her career really, really took off. And one day Jean got a call that his mother was ill. So they went back down to Key West to, see his mom because she was dying.
Makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. Jean and his wife were with his mom when she passed away on September 14th, 1945. Aww. Jean and Anne inherited the family home in Key West, and they decided to leave New York and move to Key West and start a new life.
I mean, if I inherited a home in Key West, I think I would move there and start over.
Right. The only thing is Anne had to really give up her career. Like, being in Key West was not where all of the opportunities were for her career.
Yeah, that must have been hard.
Yeah. So when settling into the home, Anne discovered Robert in a storage closet. When she found Robert, she took him to Jean, and he was over the moon to be reunited with his new friend. And then he really started resuming his childhood habit of talking to Robert as if he were alive.
How old was Jean at this point?
Jean was born, he was 5 in 1905. He was born in 1900, so he would have been 45 because this happened in 45 or 46 because it was after they moved into the house in 1945.
Okay, so a 45-year-old man ecstatic about being reunited with a creepy doll from his childhood. Okay, just making sure I'm setting the scene.
Yeah, but when he would talk to Robert, he would like stop and like wait as if Robert was talking to him and then respond to something like that Robert said to him. It wasn't just him talking. It was like a conversation he was having with the doll, but nobody else could hear that the doll was saying anything.
I just want to point out that if Jean was a woman, he would have been admitted.
Yeah, absolutely.
Talking to a doll? Yeah, he would have been admitted.
Mm-hmm. One day, Anne, this is weird. Anne was walking by the bedroom and she overheard Jean reassuring Robert that he would always be his best friend. And then he said to Robert, "Don't worry about my wife. We can handle that." I'm like, "What?
Nope. I'm out.
We can handle that.
I'm leaving. Where are the divorce papers? I'm done."
That's really weird. So they lived in an old, like the house they lived in was an older house, and it had like the room upstairs that's like at an angle. What are they called? Like a turret or something on the top of a house.
Yeah, sounds right.
And Gene kept Robert in the window of the turret in the top of the house. And he did it because he was telling Robert, well, you can watch the sunrise every morning here, like you used to, like when he was a kid. And he also would talk about how he could watch the street because the street was right in front of the house. Local children were so creeped out by Robert's gaze that they would cross the street to avoid walking directly past Gene's house.
I probably would have done the same thing as a kid.
Yeah, the kids some of them claim to see Robert moving from window to window on his own because they could see Gene in the room working on a painting.
Was he painting the doll?
It didn't say what he was painting. He actually was a really good artist.
Okay.
He did I think in the pictures for the post, there's a picture of Gene and his wife Anne standing next to a portrait of Anne that he had painted. He was pretty good.
Okay.
But it didn't say what exactly he was working on at the time.
I bet it was the doll.
Could have been. Now, imagine this. The strange events surrounding Robert took a toll on Gene and Anne's marriage.
Oh, really? You don't say.
Yeah.
I'm shocked.
One night they had some guests over at the house, and you could hear, almost like your house, running back and forth from upstairs. It sounded like someone was just running back and forth, back and forth. But they didn't have upstairs neighbors. It was their house. And the gentleman that was over asked, who is somebody upstairs? And Gene said, "Oh, no, that's just our cats."
Did they have cats?
No. So Anne she was tired of all of this. She had had enough of this doll. And she very angrily replied, "We don't have a cat." And the tension in the room became very palpable. And the guests were like, "We got to get out of here. We don't want to be in the middle of this tiff."
I don't even care about the tiff. I mean, I like spooky things. So I would have been like, let me pull out my digital recorder and go upstairs. Back then, I probably wouldn't have. And I would have been like, there's something upstairs that's not normal. So I'm leaving because of that.
I don't know that they would have thought in paranormal terms, but as far as they knew, Gene could have had a mistress living with them upstairs.
Yeah.
And that's why Anne was so angry. Like, I don't think anybody would have guessed that this was about Gene's doll he got when he was 5 years
doll.
old.
Yeah, that probably wasn't going through anybody's radar at that moment.
Right. To outsiders, Gene and Anne seemed to have a great marriage, except for that incident with the company. But the truth was their marriage was far from great. Their relationship was deeply strained by Gene's obsession with Robert, and eventually Anne moved into her own room in the house to get some distance from Gene and the doll.
I would have moved out.
In 1965, Gene was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease, and he spent the next 10 years in an upstairs room with Robert, back up in the turret room. Every time I say turret, what the fuck is that?
Unknown caller.
I have this silenced.
Spooky.
I have this on Do Not Disturb. That's weird.
That is weird. It's Robert. Robert's calling you.
That was really bizarre. I have everything on Do Not Disturb.
Yeah, it was Robert. You're not supposed to talk about him. Isn't that like a rule or something? And now if my phone does it, I'm out.
You're out?
We're just going to cut the episode short.
Well, if it was Robert, he's calling from Ohio.
Well, his ghostly, he could just trying to get whatever ghostly connection he could get.
Yeah, that's really weird that started ringing out loud. I don't like that at all.
No.
Bizarre. Okay, moving on. Gene spent the next 10 years in the upstairs room with Robert, slowly losing his mind. Dementia is a part of Parkinson's.
Okay.
Eventually, if you have Parkinson's, you will end up with dementia.
Also, probably didn't help that he was in that room with Robert.
Mm-hmm. Gene passed away on June 24th, 1974. This was a month before I was born. Despite their fractured marriage, his wife Anne was devastated. Eventually, Anne sold the house to a neighbor, William Geyser, with one condition.
That Robert had to stay.
Robert comes with the house.
Oh.
5 years later, Anne died of pancreatic cancer.
Oh, poor Anne.
2 years after Anne's death, Myrtle and Bill Reuter bought the house from William Geyser. Their daughter Sarah was thrilled with their new home. It was huge, and it was a beautiful old home.
Bet.
As they were moving in and the parents were unpacking, Sarah started to look around and just explore the house.
As the child does.
Right? And she entered the room where Jean passed away and found Robert sitting in a rocking chair.
Oh, God.
Almost instantly, Sarah started talking to Robert like Jean did, like having a conversation back and forth. Things quickly took a turn for the worse as Sarah began seeing Robert move on his own.
No.
Which understandably freaked her out.
You think?
Yeah, and her parents became very concerned about her behavior. She seemed to be having nightmares all the time. And one night they heard Sarah screaming in her bedroom. They ran in and they found her in the bed, and she was holding Robert up in the air, and it looked like she was just holding it up, but to Sarah, the doll was attacking her.
Oh, God.
And she was like fighting it off. She claimed that she had an argument with the doll. Desperate, Sarah's father, again, just locked Robert away in a closet. I don't know why these people keep this doll.
Why are they just locking him? First of all, I guess it's a big house, but not many people have closets that they can just like lock something away in.
Mainly, I think they kept putting him in this. This is the weird thing, is that they kept putting him in the same closet. Everybody would put him in the same closet.
Weird.
Now, when Jean left, he put him in the attic, but everybody else, it was like this one closet that they would always throw him in. So Sarah's dad took him away, locked him in the closet, and Sarah's father was found dead in his car from carbon monoxide poisoning.
What?
Yeah. Legend has it that Robert got his revenge.
Yeah, kind of sounds like it.
And here's the weird part. Unable to afford the house on her own, Myrtle sold it, but decided to keep Robert. She began communicating with Robert and promising to take care of him.
And this is the mom?
This is the mom, Sarah's mom.
Okay.
After her husband died.
Weird.
Yeah. So she moved into a new apartment because she couldn't afford the house on her own. One night in her new apartment, Robert was missing from the chair that she kept him in. He was always in the same spot, sitting in this chair, but she found him missing.
I assume she still had Sarah at this point.
It does not say that Sarah was there, but there's no way. She was a child, so of course Sarah had to be there. Myrtle ended up searching the apartment, only to be locked in the bathroom, which she assumes was by Robert. She had a very turbulent relationship with the doll, which seems crazy to me that anybody would have a turbulent relationship with a doll.
Right, that sentence in itself.
Right, it's kind of crazy.
And still keep it, that's the thing.
Right, but she did finally get rid of him on August 19th, 1994, the morning after he attacked her in the bathroom.
That seems fair. I think I would also get rid of a doll if he attacked me in the bathroom.
Right, so this is the point where Robert ends up at the museum. Myrtle donated Robert to the Fort East Martello Museum, which was a museum that Jean Otto helped create.
Ooh.
She told them, this is Robert the doll. He belonged to Jean Otto, and he is haunted. After completing the paperwork, Myrtle left the fort and died 101 days later.
Okay, interesting.
The museum director was spooked by her story and locked Robert away out of public view. Really unsure of what to do with him.
I probably wouldn't have even taken him, to be honest, but...
Well, he was certain that it was the right place for the doll because of his connection to Jean, who helped create the museum. He just wasn't sure what to do with the doll.
The museum was not like a haunted paranormal museum.
No, but it had a lot of historic things from Key West, and Robert in himself would be considered historic for the area.
Okay.
Because he was given to Jean in 1905.
Okay.
This is when things at the museum took a turn, when they started having plumbing problems. They called in a plumber. He's down working on the pipes, and he heard laughter behind him, and he turned around, and Robert was standing there.
Oh, God. Standing
behind him, yeah. So he fled from the building.
All right, I got another question. I have not seen Robert in a while, so I'm struggling picturing him. Is he a doll that you could make stand on their own?
Everybody always had him in a seated position, so I'm going to assume no.
Okay.
Like even when he was in the window, like watching the school kids go to school, he was in a chair in the window.
Okay.
But then they would say he would get up and go to the other window.
Okay.
But he was also used as advertisement. So it is possible that they made him with the ability to stand.
Yeah, but it could also be like one of my haunted dolls came with a stand. There's like a thing that sticks up and it like helps her stand up. But if it was just her by herself, she would not be stable enough to stand.
Right. I'm not sure.
Okay.
So he leaves the building. He's like, I'm not coming back. And stories about Robert started to spread, drawing public interest. Employees started noticing strange occurrences as Robert's reputation continued to grow. The museum eventually put Robert on display, cautioning visitors to follow the rules. His story spread from being known by a handful of people in Key West to recognition across the country. Visitors began experiencing issues with their camera batteries draining quickly, leading to the legend of asking Robert's permission before taking pictures. Other strange events included objects moving around Robert and sightings of Robert moving himself in the display case.
Nope.
Museum workers reported hearing Robert whisper their names as they walked by. One morning, a worker was cleaning in the area, and she noticed that Robert's feet in the display case were dirty, and they're not usually dirty. And when she looked down, she saw footprints walking away from the display case.
Nope. I'm leaving. Sorry. I have to go.
Yep, I quit. If you're planning a visit, here are the 4 rules you must follow when you meet him. Number 1, say hello and introduce yourself. It is essential to greet Robert properly. Number 2, be polite and kind. Always speak to Robert with the respect and kindness that he deserves.
But does he deserve respect and kindness?
He thinks he does, and that's the important thing here. Say goodbye. When you leave, make sure you say goodbye to close the connection. And number 4, ask permission to take a picture. You must ask Robert before snapping a photo. How do you know his answer is yes?
I was about to say, can he say no?
I have no idea.
And if so, how?
Key West native and historian Kaylee Castanello warns that if you disrespect Robert, you are asking for trouble. According to Kaylee, Robert had the power to destroy your livelihood, career, marriage, and even cause death in your family. She firmly believes in his ability to wreak havoc on those who cross them. Over the years, people that have come to visit Robert and have broken the rules or have been disrespectful, they have written letters of apology to the museum to give to Robert.
Okay.
Thousands of people have been affected by this curse, and they've get thousands of letters begging for his forgiveness.
Now, what does the museum do with the letters? Do they just show them to Robert? Do they read them aloud to Robert?
I'm not sure, to be honest with you. I hope they read them out loud.
Okay.
The people that disrespect Robert have reported bad luck, such as being struck by lightning.
Oh, God.
Yeah. Falling ill and experiencing fires and floods in their home. The list really goes on and on. But any misfortune that befalls them, they attribute to Robert.
Okay.
Which is kind of iffy in and of itself because, bad things do happen to people.
They do. And sometimes
it can't all be Robert.
Right. Sometimes you just get a stream of bad luck. But what's intriguing is when multiple people who have claimed to have disrespected Robert also get these streams of bad luck right after.
Right.
So it's intriguing.
We're going to talk about Bonnie.
Who's Bonnie?
Bonnie believes that her nightmare began when she was sent to capture an image of Robert's aura.
Okay.
For those who are unfamiliar, an aura is the energy field surrounding every living thing. People, plants, animals, we all have an aura.
What color was Robert's?
Well, to capture Robert's aura, she used an SLS camera, which maps out any living thing that it detects. Typically, a doll would not register on this camera, but Robert did.
I have the SLS app on my phone, and my dolls register.
It depends on the sensitivity that you have.
Okay. I have adjusted it, and sometimes there is a sensitivity to where they won't register. Then there's a certain point which is not even the highest, but they will register.
Bonnie claims that her camera would not pick up the dolls. And they do have her, they had footage of her scanning other things in the museum that it didn't pick up on. But not only did it map Robert out, but he had a blurriness, an aura around him, whereas nothing else there did.
Okay.
Besides the people. And like I said, this is Bonnie's ordeal. This is her story of her experience. But as Bonnie had the camera focused on Robert, there were other people in the room. So a gentleman nearby came up and commented on the aura on the picture. Bonnie noted that the aura was appearing as very handsome, but the man remarked, "Yeah, for an ugly motherfucker." And in that instant, Bonnie felt a dreadful sense of foreboding as she believed she was in trouble.
Yeah.
She thought that because she was responsible for taking the photograph, she was the one who would face the consequences.
Did she?
She did.
Okay.
Over the next 8 years, Bonnie's life took a devastating turn. She suffered from multiple car accidents, financial ruin, a broken back, a broken shoulder, and the loss of her business, and the sinking of a houseboat that she had.
Huh.
So whether you believe in curses or not, Bonnie's series of misfortunes was undeniably severe.
Yeah. Why didn't she go back and apologize? That seems to work for other people.
Well, she does.
Okay.
So I was watching, when I was researching this, there's a documentary on Discovery Plus about Robert the Doll.
Ooh. I don't have Discovery Plus.
You have Max, so it'll be on there.
Yeah. A lot of times they cross over.
Right. In the documentary, you see Bonnie trying to approach Robert again, and she's visibly shaking and nervous. She's crying, tearfully apologizing to Robert for the disrespect during their last encounter and begging for his forgiveness. And that's where they left us. Like, I want to know if her life got better.
I also want to know why it took her 8 years to ask for forgiveness.
I don't know.
Like, you said she immediately knew she was in trouble.
I would have apologized then.
As soon as like everyone would have left, I would have been like, hey, Robert, I am so sorry. I did not mean for that to happen.
Right.
That guy was a jerk. And that's not my opinion. I think you're incredibly handsome. Yep. You are the most handsomest doll I've ever seen.
Right.
And you're just the best.
I mean, you think about it. She's taking a picture with an SLS camera to capture an aura. So she has experience in supernatural things, I guess.
Right.
You would think she would know. But for whatever reason, it took 8 years.
Okay.
There's another lady named Becky. And Becky knew the rules, but chose to ignore them.
Oh, Becky. Bad idea.
One of the things she did was touching the glass that surrounded Robert, which, not listed in the rules, is also considered forbidden.
Okay, maybe they should list it.
She also took a picture of Robert without asking permission, and Becky's defiance soon led to a series of unexplained events in her home. After her encounter with Robert, Becky began to feel a dark presence in her home. Shadowy figures moved around her house. At one point, she was questioning if she was seeing the spirit of Gene Otto, like if he was attached to the doll and it was his doll.
I could see that because if the thing is following, you would like to think it's not actually Robert himself, but somehow people that have been attached to him.
So she just had all of these things just moving around in the house, shadow people, and it does not say that she asked for forgiveness. So I'm going to assume that that is still going on for her.
Maybe she just really wanted to have a paranormal encounter.
Maybe. I wouldn't have picked that one.
Yeah, I think there's probably better things you could do.
I'd rather spend the night in Penhurst than mess with the curse of Robert.
Agreed. I don't want anything that's going to follow me. Like, I want to have an experience. Like, if I could do something at the museum to experience Robert, I might. I just wouldn't want anything to follow me home.
I think that's the risk that you take.
Yeah, well, that means I wouldn't do it.
Yeah. Rachel, another victim of Robert, her and her husband were on their honeymoon in Key West. They decided to take a ghost tour, which is something we would do.
Absolutely. Something we've done.
During the ghost tour, they take the group to see Robert. They were briefed on the rules of engagement. Everybody else took them very seriously, except for Rachel's husband.
What a jerk.
It seems like most of the time when it's couples, it's always the men that do this.
Yeah.
The moment her husband was disrespectful towards Robert, their honeymoon bliss turned into a nightmare. So they had like all kinds of like cancellations. Things just started not going right. They were enjoying their honeymoon, having a great time. And then all these little things started happening that just made everything more difficult.
I would have drug him back to the museum and I would have demanded that he apologized.
Right.
To Robert to not ruin my honeymoon.
Back at home, Rachel noticed small disturbances such as tapping and knocking on the walls and the floors. These escalated to the sound of footsteps walking towards them. And they started out kind of light, and then they increasingly got like louder. Then it sounded like the footsteps were just directly walking towards them or running towards them. And I have experiences of similar things from my old house that we will get into in a later episode.
Okay.
Because this is a lengthy episode.
Yeah.
The breaking point for Rachel was when she returned from work. She found all of her kitchen cabinets open, but it wasn't just that. Everything that was in the cabinets were stacked up in neat piles all around the kitchen floor.
Nope. I'm leaving. I hear somebody calling. I have to go.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. So that eerie event just really left her convinced that Robert had followed them home. They did show her writing. I think she wrote a letter to ask for forgiveness. So I don't know what, like we said about the letters, if they read them, if people have success with that.
Right. Hopefully they do.
So now we have Dan Schultz. He's another victim. There's so many curse stories about Robert.
I love it. Keep them coming.
Dan Schultz was a frequent visitor to Key West, and he made the mistake of mocking Robert while taking a picture without asking for permission during his annual trip.
2 mistakes, Dan. Come on.
I know. Within 20 minutes of leaving the museum, Dan's luck took a nosedive. Minor car issues escalated to serious car accidents involving family members. Then his dog fell ill.
No. Robert, stay away from the dogs. Curse the people, not the pets.
Then his mother got ill and passed away. And then he lost his job along with a major contract that he had. But the misfortune didn't stop there. Dan had other pets die. His own health deteriorated to the point of near death. Desperate, Dan decided to write a letter to Robert, begging for forgiveness. Oh, this isn't remarkably within days, his streak of bad luck began to reverse. It took Dan 13 years to muster the courage to return to Key West. And he went every year. It was his annual trip that he met Robert.
I could see that.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'd go back after that.
Apparently, the letter worked for Dan.
Okay. Robert just, he wants you to respect him. And if you don't, he's a reasonable guy. You just got to say you're sorry.
Right. They bring in psychic Cindy Kaza to investigate this. She visited the auto home where Robert the doll once lived. And Cindy felt the energy shift as soon as she walked in. She sensed a woman with unfinished business and a little girl running around the house.
That's interesting.
Yeah. She said the atmosphere was thick with pain, guilt, remorse, and shame. The current homeowner believes these feelings stem from the spirit of Jean Otto's nanny, Emmeline.
Did she die in the home?
Well, the legend of Emmeline. Emmeline is believed to have lost a child in the parlor room where Robert the doll was present when her child passed away. One legend suggests that Emmeline had an affair with Jean's father, and the child she lost was the result of that affair.
Scandalous.
Very much so in 1905. Many believed Emmeline practiced voodoo and Santeria, a religion known for worshipping Orcus, powerful spirits that are manifestations of Olodumare, the supreme being of the religion. It is said she performed a ceremony cursing Robert, and the spirit of her lost daughter attached itself to the doll.
Okay, so was Robert haunted prior to this happening?
It seems that he was, because it started right away with the doll. But we'll kind of get into a little bit about why Cindy, the psychic medium, thinks that this is happening.
Okay.
Cindy opened the door to the most active room in the auto home, and she heard a woman with a Bohemian accent crying and repeating, "They took my baby," which they believe that the Bohemian accent, they believe that was Emmeline.
Okay.
She would have had that accent. She sensed that the spirit isn't inside of Robert, but attached to him.
Okay.
So not like a possessed doll, but just that has spirits attached to him. But there was a very strong feeling of vengeance.
To me, though, and it could be the baby is attached, the child that was lost, but something has to be possessing him for him to be able to physically move, in my opinion.
I don't know. I'm just telling you what the psychic medium said.
Fair enough.
She did say that she got this feeling with the vengeance that the spirit was saying, if I can't have my family, then you can't have yours. If you take my family, I'll destroy yours.
That makes me think it's not the baby, though, because it's a baby. So, like, a baby is not saying that.
The child wasn't a baby when she died.
Oh, okay. I misunderstood that then.
But, you know, like I would call my kids my baby. So when she's like, they took my baby.
Okay, fair enough. I was thinking like an actual baby.
No. Cindy believes that the auto home is a portal for many spirits and isn't surprised by the numerous paranormal experiences reported there.
Does the auto home allow for people to tour it, or is someone living in it?
I believe it's like a historical thing where people can tour.
Okay. So we would have to go there too.
Obviously.
Yeah, of course. Key West vacation.
Cindy finally had the chance to meet Robert. She respectfully introduced herself and immediately felt multiple spirits attached to the doll. She now believes that Robert himself is a portal, and closing this portal would be extremely difficult because the origin of the portal is unknown. Cindy sensed that many spirits, especially those of children, are attached to Robert due to unfinished business or untold stories, causing them to be sad and angry.
Aww. That makes me sad.
Yeah. She also picked up on a very angry, violent, and aggressive male spirit attached to Robert. Cindy asked Robert why he curses or haunts people that break the rules. And she heard this angry male spirit say, because they deserve it.
Creepy.
Yeah. And this part, I was so shocked to read this. I was so happy, not for the person, but I had no idea about this. I was looking on Reddit for stories of people that have had encounters with him. And I saw somebody reference Ozzy Osbourne.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, what?
Huh? Okay.
Ozzy Osbourne and his son Jack had a smaller version of Robert the Doll that they had gotten. And apparently you cannot be disrespectful to these things either.
Oh,
like any manifestation. Okay. So they had made videos doing crazy things like shooting him with water guns and all of this stuff. And it wasn't really too long after that Jack Osbourne was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis.
Aww.
This all happened around 2019. And in 2019, Ozzy Osbourne had a very rough year health-wise. And Ozzy blames his health problems on the curse of Robert the Doll. After meeting Robert and then having this little tiny doll.
He actually went and met Robert, and then I guess does the museum sell?
I guess well, when they said meeting Robert, they only talked about this the little thing that they had. So I don't know that he actually went and met Robert himself, but when he got this little doll, it was like, these are the rules. Like, you still have to follow these rules with this doll. And they were like, nah, whatever.
Okay.
So he didn't take any of it seriously. And he suffered a whole host of health issues, including a fall, neck surgery, an infection in his hand, and even a hospitalization for the flu. Now, Ozzy also has Parkinson's disease. Some of this stuff, I think the fall would probably be consistent with something that could happen. Speaking about his life, since the incident of Robert, this is what he is quoted as saying. You think it's a fucking joke. It's bad luck. I keep telling you this. You keep thinking it's fucking not serious, but look at what I'm saying. Just look at what has gone on with me, and you think it's a fucking joke.
Did he apologize to Robert?
I didn't see anything saying that he did in the articles that I was reading about it, but Jack Osbourne is big in the paranormal community.
Yeah.
I think that Jack would be smart enough to tell his dad, we need to apologize to the doll.
Okay. It's probably.
Right. And that brings us to the end of this episode about Robert the Doll.
Whew, that was a doozy.
Yeah.
I think, though, after hearing everything, I do want to go see Robert. Because it sounds to me, as long as you're not an asshole and you follow the rules, you're fine.
Right. And we wouldn't be assholes.
We wouldn't be assholes. We'd be very respectful of Robert.
Right.
Yeah. If you loved what you heard today, please take a moment to rate, review, and subscribe to our podcast wherever you listen. Your support means the absolute world to us, and it really does help us get more listeners so we can continue to bring you these chilling tales.
It's a minute to you, and it means everything to us.
Everything. Hit that 5 stars, say these girls are awesome, and subscribe so you get a notification every time we post a new episode.
And don't forget to follow us on Instagram at notmyghostpodcast and on Facebook at notmyghostnotmyproblem. Not My Problem. We post updates, photos, we have trivias, and we feature fans. There's always something going on over there. Follow us. You're going to enjoy it.
Please interact with those posts because the more people interact, the more fun it is. And if you want to have even more ghostly content, if you absolutely cannot get enough of Jen and Kelly, then you should probably join our Patreon for little as $3 a month. We have fantastic perks for our supporters, which we now have 3. Welcome Kevin to our Patreon.
Yes, Kevin. Thank you.
Kevin is our 3rd supporter, and we love you. along with our first 2 supporters as well. Go on, join that. You get early episodes, you get some behind the scenes content, you get bloopers. Eventually, hopefully soon, we're going to do some bonus mini episodes that won't be available to the general public. Go subscribe.
Please. And we are contractually obligated to shout out Danny, our first patron, and every episode.
Every episode.
We don't mind because we adore her.
We love you, Danny. And if you have ever had any encounters with Robert the Doll or any other haunted dolls or, really just any paranormal encounters at all, we'll take them. Please email them to us at notmyghostpodcast@gmail.com, and you might just hear it read on a future episode.
Thank you for joining us on this disturbing exploration of Robert the Doll. Remember, if you visit Robert, follow all of the rules and keep this in mind.
If it's not your doll,
it's not your problem.
Until next time, stay spooky
and stay skeptical.